So today I'd like to cover only two topics, that is laparoscopic splenectomy and adrenectomy. Pancreas we will take as a separate section because that itself is a half-an-hour talk, since there are many wide variety of surgeries can be done in pancreas. So not wasting much time, and thanks Dr. Jyoti for invitation and a nice introduction. Greetings from Jupiter Hospital Thane, where I've been working since the last 13 years. So the principles of any solid organ surgery is teamwork. And I really admire that in a medical college you have arranged this talk, because teamwork is very, very essential. I too started my laparoscopic journey from a medical college. And when I was working as a faculty, as an assistant professor at St. GS Medical College. And I will like to start a small story here. When we did our first laparoscopic adrenectomy way back in 2001, we all struggled. So what helps in teamwork is the entire team is geared up and excited. Passion has to be there for doing something new. So we all switched on that time we had the small cameras, Sony cameras, and we had got hold of a CD of laparoscopic adrenectomy from Dr. Michael Eadie, from where we all have got trained in New York. And we switched on his video and saw the video repeatedly. We saw it previous day of surgery, on the day of surgery. Even while operating, we had kept the video on one side. So that helps. So reading the text about the subject, understanding the vascular anatomy of the organ, and basic principle is target the organ. The indications of all these surgeries remain the same, whether you do laparoscopic or open. So I'm not going to go into the indications and contraindications, but how to perform these surgeries is most essential. So how it comes? By practice. See the videos, talk to people who have done these surgeries, and then do a thorough preoperative planning with radiological imaging. It's very essential to understand the radiological imaging of these cases. Otherwise, we may err on the surgery. Ergonomic port placement was very well covered by Dr. Rao in the morning. I thank him for that. So my job is less now. So now advanced equipments. Yes, it has added value, but I would not say it's 100% mandatory. Though unfortunately in my videos, you'll see these equipments being used because I'm working in a private hospital since last 13 years. But when we started these surgeries, we did not have harmonic. We did not have LigaSure in KM hospital. That time I remember we had done all with monopolar coagulation, and we have our publication also to do these surgeries with basic equipments. But yes, if you have high definition camera system, it's a big advantage because you can see better. And who knows best? If we can see better, we don't have much problems. The finer details are viewed very better. Now, these surgeries are solid organ, small organ surgeries, sometimes big organs, but they have a vascular pedicle. So hemostasis is the most important step in these surgeries. Hence, if we have harmonic ultrasonic gears or a LigaSure, it's a big advantage. But the best equipment is surgeon's own hands. So gentleness, tissue dissection is most important. So now we move on to laparoscopic splenectomy. It's the gold standard. Now you may argue that the number of cases are less, the referral pattern is less. But yes, even though it is less, each case when it comes, don't have a fear that I cannot do it, I haven't done it before, what if anything goes wrong? Remove the fear. That's the first step. It has got a shortest learning curve among all the advanced laparoscopic surgeries. You see 5 cases, you can understand how to do it. So see the videos properly, go to a center who is doing lap splenectomy, get well versed with the technique, and then start doing it. Because you may not get an ideal case in the first scenario. You may get less favorable circumstances. Like you may get a patient of massive spleen, you may get a patient of trauma, or pregnancy, or embedded pancreas. So any of these things, you may feel I haven't done it before, so why should I do? So I'll share all these cases, how without having an experience of doing it, one can do it. Because lap splenectomy is the most simplest operation, I feel, among all the advanced laparoscopic surgeries. So preoperative planning. Once a patient is referred for lap splenectomy, triple vaccine 2 weeks prior to surgery for all elective surgeries is mandatory. It's essential to do a CT scan before you embark on lap splenectomy, because one has to rule out splenenculi. These are not seen on sonography, can be missed. As you can see in this picture over here, this is a small splenenculi, and I'll show a video how these splenenculi were removed. Platelet count, if it is low, one says, no, I cannot do the surgery. It's wrong. We can perform the surgery with platelet count as low as 8,000. You can see this petechiae, this patient with autoimmune hemolytic anemia plus thrombocytopenia. What offers best preoperative care is you give immunoglobulins, give steroids, optimize the patient, and then perform the surgery. Keep always at least one packed cell reserve. And it goes without saying that one needs to transfuse platelets on table just prior to induction and just prior to taking the incision. Post-operatively, antibiotic prophylaxis is mandatory, and also anticoagulant prophylaxis to prevent portal vein and splenic vein thrombosis. Always take a consent for SOS conversion in all advanced laparoscopic surgeries and basic laparoscopic surgeries. This is mandatory. Never say, I will do only laparoscopy. I have not converted in the last 10 years, 20 years. You may convert now, the next case. So don't have that fear, have that ego or boasting attitude. These are the ports. Patient is in lateral position, primary port, the 3 ergonomic ports, telescope port 10 millimeter, 10 mm working port, 5 mm left hand working port, and 5 mm in the flank for retraction. I will show this in the videos. The approach, the most common approach is anterolateral approach because gravity aids in spleen mobilization. You don't have to actually do much because gravity helps a lot. So I start with a simple case here. As I said, the left port and the retraction port go first, and then comes the working port, because the working port has to be adjusted as a target, as a manipulation angle proper for the clipping of the splenic artery and vessels. So first step is gastrosplenic ligament. This is a patient of hereditary spherocytosis. You can see the pancreas here nicely. So we are opening the gastrocolic ligament. If it's an ITP case, technique is different. We just open little bit and directly go for splenic artery first. Here, because it's not ITP, there is no oozing, we can go ahead and clear off all the pedicles here. So this is the inferior polar vessel, which is most likely a accessory vessel or a long short gastric vessel itself. So this is being clipped. If any big vessel is there, don't have overconfidence on the energy source, clip the vessels. Have a wide window. So now pulsatile vessel is seen here on the upper border of pancreas. This is the pancreas. Dissect the area. Clear off the fat around the vessel, because that will ensure a approximate and accurate clipping. That's the pulsatile splenic artery. I prefer to suture it. I ligate it with 20 Mersilk. One may use only LigaSure, but I prefer to suture it in most of the cases. There is some sound coming in between. Is it disturbing? I don't know from where is it coming. So these are hemoclips applied on the splenic artery. Now we move on to the upper short gastrics. Here one has to be very careful to prevent injury to the spleen. In this case, I'm using LigaSure, that is a bipolar equipment. Now we move on to the linorenal ligament. So there are 2 ways to do the lap splenectomy. One is to finish the entire hilum and then move for mobilization. In many cases, large spleens, or if the splenic vein is abutting the pancreas like the way here, I prefer to first clear this off and then go for splenic vein. So in this case, I have not tackled the splenic vein as of now. This is one technique of doing it. I'll show different videos of different techniques. So here we have to be very careful of clearing of the fatty tissue over the tail of pancreas and the splenic vein. So now this is the splenic vein, which is being dissected. Again, same step. One has to bear the vein accurately. If one doesn't bear the vein properly, then the clips can slip. So we can use large clip. This is a big vein. So after clipping, I felt I should also suture it. I've taken a suture on the body side. Now the most important thing over here is to always clip on the specimen side first. The biggest mistake and the commonest mistake I've seen people doing is they clip on the body side. If we clip on the body side, the vein becomes distended, and then it becomes difficult to clip, and that creates a mess. The clip slips or the ligature slips. There's back bleeding from the spleen, and that creates a mess. So now we are separating further. Already vein has been clipped, artery has been clipped, but here you can see the arterial branch again near the hilum. So this is the same artery which was clipped earlier. We move on and separate the spleen from the stomach and the retroperitoneum. So the camera person has to be very good and with you. You cannot have a camera person thinking of something else at that time. It should be like it should be synchronous. Now lift the spleen up. We don't have to poke with the instrument, but just lift it up. So any long instrument helps, or a suction cannula can be used to lift off the spleen from the retroperitoneum. As you can see here, the pancreas is here and the spleen is separated. And this is a patient who was reported to have splenenculi on CT scan, which was seen also. So now we are clearing of the gastrocolic omentum, which is the commonest site of having splenenculi. That's the colon, and this is the splenenculi. I hope you all can see this. Yeah, so that's the bare area. There is no bleeding. If we perform the surgery properly, there is hardly any bleeding. So this was a simple case, supposedly a moderate enlarged spleen. It was 1 kg in weight. Now we move on to massive spleens. You may not have a simple case in the first sitting. You may not get a referral for ITP. But even if there's a large spleen, more than 2 kg, 3 kg, one can attempt laparoscopy. I would say attempt for all cases, because you don't know when you will get your next reference. In such cases, the port placements have to be more inferior. They have to adjust according to the spleen. Now this patient's spleen was palpable till the umbilical region. So port placements are more inferior and give the position little more lateral. Literature says that you can go ahead safely with large spleens if you have experience and expertise and you have some gadgets. Another option in such cases is sometimes we can use our own port, hand port, because we don't want to spend money in the hand port. We can use our own gloved hand and put it inside for retraction. This is a very, very large spleen. Again, it's a case of hereditary spherocytosis. So it's an old video, 7 years old, so the quality is not so good here. You can see the retraction done by the lateral port by a simple grasper, a big splenic vein here. So here in this case, I have sutured it on the specimen side also because of the sheer size of the vein. You can see how the bulging occurs if we clip on the body side first or ligate on the body side first. So vein drains from here. So always clip on the specimen side first. And then take a fan and steel incision after clearing the entire spleen and take it out. This was 2 kg spleen and patient recovered very well. So one can attempt for large spleens also, don't hesitate. Now regarding trauma, you being a medical college, you'll be having some patients who are conserved initially grade 2, grade 3 traumas, but later on they deteriorate and they require surgery, or it's a spontaneous rupture of spleen like in this case. In such cases, what alterations you should do? You should be ready to open the patient, right? So take a midline port. Instead of picking a lateral port or anterolateral position, one can go with the midline ports. Patient is in leg split position, midline port, anesthetists are vigilant in the monitoring. Because this is done in emergency or semi-emergency, we have to be geared up to do it fast and a quick job. So you can see the hemoperitoneum, the patient deteriorated after being conserved for a day. So there was hemoperitoneum, there are clots here. Your associate should be very good. So here indirectly after, since it is shattered, the gastrocolic omentum was not much to be done. We directly went to the pedicles, whatever vessels were coming in the way, safeguarding the pancreas. We just clipped them. And once you clip the vessels, the bleeding is automatically stopped. Of course, the patient is not actively bleeding here. It's in the sense that he's not in shock, so we can go ahead with surgery. A word of caution here, don't attempt laparoscopy if patient is hemodynamically unstable. This is possible only if patient is hemodynamically stable. So such small spleens can be placed in a bag and then delivered out. As I showed in the picture, it was delivered out through the umbilicus. So transumbilical extension and the spleen was delivered out. And these were the ports here. So one can modify a little bit provided one has an open-mindedness in doing these surgeries. Now we move on to pregnancy. Of course, this is extremely rare. Only 13 cases are reported in literature. And the indication will be refractory ITP. Patient is not responding to steroids, not responding to immunoglobulins, and still having a drop in platelet count. So it's a threat to the baby. Hence, this surgery is recommended. I had an opportunity to do this case. One such case is a gravid uterus. So what adjustments you will do here? You will make the port placements little higher up. The uterus is coming up. This is done always in second trimester. It goes without saying. So be careful while putting the ports. The flow rate is maintained at the same rate. And patient is not given a steep head high or lateral position because we don't want any IVC problems. So this is a gastrosplenic ligament being opened up. Same steps. This is ITP, refractory ITP. That's the pancreas. So the identification is for splenic artery. Since it is ITP, as I said, we don't dissect the complete short gastrics. Open up adequately for the vision and dissect the splenic artery. In this case, in suppose pregnancy or other metabolic conditions, what may happen is the liver may come in the way. As you can see here, liver is enlarged because of pregnancy. But if the camera person is proper, one can go ahead and do the surgery safely. The purpose of showing different videos is different scenarios. We may have different scenarios always, and we may not have a fixed thing that, we perform only in ITP. We don't have an ideal case. There's nothing like ideal case. We have to consider each case as ideal and do it with our best abilities. So I'll forward this slightly. So you can see here how it was done. Splenic artery was clipped. It's cut. So now we are moving ahead. Upper short gastrics. Clearing of the upper short gastrics. Here one has to be very, very careful. Actually, the camera person should go very close. And even the energy source here in this case, it is harmonic. But I'll show you another video where there was a problem here. Now you can see after ligating the splenic artery, the inferior pole is still vascular. That means there is a proper vessel here. So always visualize the spleen. That's the reason I'm showing this video here. It's a separate inferior polar artery. Just to not harmonize or ligosure it, try and clip it because it's a proper arterial vessel. So now the entire color has changed, entire spleen's color has changed once we have tackled the inferior polar vessel. And now we are moving on to the splenic vein. So these techniques were same again. Now here clipping on the specimen side first, as I've already mentioned. Then on the body side. Lift up the spleen from the retroperitoneum, the lienoidal ligament. So main vessel now, that was a polar vessel earlier. Now the main one more, because there are multiple vessels in this case. Additional clip is being placed to prevent bleeding from there. So this has been tackled with additional clipping and then with harmonic scissors. So be careful of the tail of pancreas. These are usually flimsy adhesions. But if there is bleeding here, then one cannot see properly and one can have an error. So after clearing from the diaphragm now, so one can place it in a bag. That's the empty fossa you can see here. It's quite clean. So small spleens can be placed in a bag and delivered to the incision. So how do we retrieve the spleen? This is one technique what I was showing, to place it in the bag. After we place it in the bag, we can take it out through the lateral port, extend the port and morcellate it. We don't have a morcellator, but simple sponge holder. Be careful, the bag should not rupture and there should not be any spillover of splenic tissue, or else the whole purpose of surgery is lost. And the other technique is, which I showed earlier, pan and steel scar. So this is the way you deliver. You put your hand inside. So spleen is not coming out easily. It's a large spleen. Do rotatory movements, manipulation, use a mop. Otherwise the hand keeps on slipping. Good retraction by assistance. So these are the different techniques of delivery of spleen. One bowl comes out and then you rotate it and then take it out. That's the whole spleen out. So this is, I think, 1 kg spleen. That's the scar here and that's the spleen. Now, what are the complications? Yes, no surgeries without complications, but fortunately, complications are less. The biggest problem is bleeding. Injury to the colon, stomach, or pancreas, yes, can happen, but I will tell you honestly, this happens extremely rarely. One has to be very, very careful in doing it. So, tissue respect is of utmost importance, and keep the surrounding structures away. Gently separate the spleen from the surrounding structures. That will help in preventing any such complications. I'll show your bleeding, how it can occur, and how to control. On this patient, splenic artery is tackled, splenic vein is tackled far from the hilum. See, because patient was on steroids, too much of fatty tissue. Now the main part is done. On the last part, pancreas. Gush of blood comes here. See this. It's an arterial bleeder from the pancreas. So clipping we attempted, it did not work. Bipolar forceps did not work. Ultimately, suturing was required. So this patient lost around 600 ml blood. Otherwise, splenectomies are bloodless surgeries. We hardly lose 50 ml or 40 ml of blood in surgeries. But this patient, because of, I would say, little less carefulness while doing the dissection of pancreas, and the camera also was not showing exactly internally. Plus, we thought the main part is over, splenic artery vein is over, so job is done. That is not so. At each step, one has to be careful. So this can happen. One has to be ready for it. Of course, one should avoid this, but one has to be ready for such circumstances and keep suture material ready for suturing. Now, in this patient, you see what has happened. Right from the beginning, very, very ideal case. Thin patient, ITP, not responding to the medical management referred by hematologist. Nicely splayed open the gastrocoligomentum. There was no scope of error. Right? Everything is clean, and you can see the pedicles nicely, both the splenic artery and the vein, very, very nicely, because it's a thin patient. So we retract the spleen, we retract the stomach. That's the splenic arterial pulsations. This is the splenic vein. We go ahead. So it was ITP, right? So what did I say earlier? If in ITP, you just target the artery first. Here, what I did was, I was going ahead and trying to finish off this short gastrics. Now I've used the energy source, but you see the energy source, it's not engulfing properly. So the bleeding occurred. So this can happen if we are not careful. This is my own video. That's why I'm showing it. All are my own videos, but I'm showing my own complication. One should not hesitate to do that. So immediately I pressed it, and I felt embarrassed and ashamed that what did I do in front of my associates. So immediately we clipped it and then went ahead. Because such a simple case, there should not be any problem. But luckily, immediately we clipped it, put a gauze piece because camera person was good. Now moving on to the splenic artery and splenic vein. Now in such cases where the artery vein is more very, very clear, there's not much fat around, pancreas is far. In such cases, one can go ahead and finish off the hilum first, as I've done in this case. So splenic artery, same step. So I'm forwarding it. I think now showing different videos will be clear about how to do it. And I should be hearing messages that in your hospital you have started doing, or you have done more variety of such cases. That will be the best thing. That's the vein. So you see pancreas is ending here. In this case, pancreas is not embedded in the hilum. So it's quite far. So it's a good ideal case to do it. So we are clearing the vein now and finishing off the vein here. Dissect completely, clear it off, bare it. So again, clipping on the specimen side first, then the body side. The steps are same, repetitive. There is no harm in putting 2 clips on each side because we don't want back bleeding. Either we can cut with scissor or with energy source. And now moving to dissect the lineal ligament. Keep little fat on the specimen side to handle it, because when we want to place it in a bag, we don't want to handle the spleen obviously. So this fat helps to place it in the bag. So Don't dissect absolutely close to the hilum, dissect little far off, as you can see in this video. These pedicles will go along with the specimen. Among the energy source, I have found ligashua more better because for such cases, because the smoke is less, the fumes are less, and the vision is more clearer. But as I said earlier, the best instrument is our own hands. So even if we don't have harmonic or ligashua, it's absolutely fine. We can go ahead, but gently and slowly. So don't bother about the timing of surgery. That anesthetist has to bother. We have to perform the surgery well and nicely. Again, one more thing I have noticed that many times in medical colleges or in private hospitals where there's a big list, people keep a lot of cases at one day. That shouldn't be the case. When you have such a cases, space out the cases well, so you are at peace and do it properly, safely. You should not be in a hurry. Now we are moving to the site where it had bled earlier, the uppermost short gastric. So already it was clipped. Now we are tackling it properly again, so that there's no bleeding again. We are additionally putting one clip here from the stomach, dissecting the window. And now the upper flimsy tissue of separating from the stomach. Right? So I think this video I can stop here now. It shows all the steps. So again, since it was ITP, we placed in a bag and removed with a small incision. So thus, friends, take home message for lap splenectomy is open-mindedness, because the cases are variety, diverse situations are there. It's not fixed. And we have to inculcate minimal invasive techniques in emergency and complex situations also, and not just wait for ideal cases, because the referral pattern has become very less in such cases. So I move on to the second topic now, laparoscopic adenectomy. It's the most passionate subject for me, and I love adrenal surgeries, mainly because we all learned together while I was in KM with Dr. Dalvi. And you can see here the open surgery made, the incision is so big. And in bilateral also, we can perform the surgery with just small openings on multiple sides. So friends, it's a very, very rewarding surgery. Adrenal surgery, when post-op you see the patients, you feel extremely happy, because the patient's outcome is so good. They are steroid dependent, they are on multiple antihypertensives, all that goes off. And they are walking on the day of surgery. That's a really boon of laparoscopic surgery to adrenals, because these are small glands. And since we are unfamiliar with the anatomy, we always are scared about doing these surgeries. But believe me, don't be scared. This is not to be scared of. It's one of the easiest surgeries to perform. And there is a learning curve, but it can be overcome by dedicated learning, understanding of the anatomy, and gentle tissue dissection. Once you are focused in your basic surgical skills, one can perform all these surgeries easily. Only problem in adrenal is if it's a right adrenal, it may be your first adrenal. If it's a left adrenal, it may be again your first adrenal. Why? Because anatomy is different on both the sides. So let's revisit the anatomy. In the right side, we have to tackle the liver, the duodenum, the kidney below, and the IVC here. This is the relationships of the right adrenal. The best part of adrenal is the rate limiting step is the adrenal vein. In the right side, it's a single adrenal vein which enters directly into the IVC. Usually it is single. Sometimes there are accessory veins, as I will show in the videos, but there are multiple adrenal arteries. Now, these come at a plane posterior to the adrenal vein, because they are entering from the aorta through the retroperitoneum, that traverse and enter the adrenal gland at multiple sites. So these are small vessels. They don't require clipping most of the times. They just require a good energy source. Sometimes there are always associated branches from the renal artery. So this is the anatomy of the right adrenal gland. Now moving to the left side, what do we have to tackle here? The spleen. The first thing which comes in our way on the left side is the spleen. Spleen, inferiorly, it is the same on both sides. That's the kidney. Stomach, fortunately, does not come in the way. It's just shown in the picture because it's all behind the stomach. And then comes the retroperitoneum. The pancreas is the most important structure which comes here in the left adrenal gland. So you can see here, if we understand this and we visualize this, when we perform the adrenal gland surgery laparoscopically, we become well versed with the anatomy. If we do not imagine or visualize it prior to surgery, then on table we get confused Arey, this is fat. I remember in one of the IAGS fellowship courses way back in 2012 or 11, I was giving a talk in Pune. One of the faculty members and the associates asked me, how do you differentiate between the fat and the adrenal gland? Do you do frozen section? This was a question asked. That means there was so much of confusion regarding fat or adrenal gland. So once we understand the anatomy properly, we can perform these surgeries well. So visualize the anatomy prior to embarking on the table. So left adrenal gland, it's a long adrenal vein as compared to the right side. Right side, in the picture, it is shown a long vein, but actually it's a short, stout vein. But left adrenal gland, adrenal vein is a long adrenal vein entering not the IVC, but the renal vein. And it's around, sometimes the diameter is around 1 centimeter. So it's quite easily identifiable. The branches are similar from the aorta. Since aorta is on the left side, they are direct branches from the aorta over here, and sometimes also from the renal artery. Now, hormone production in the adrenal gland, that creates havoc. Hence, the technique of surgery is very different in adrenal gland. I label it as no-touch technique, which I will show shortly. Now, how do you evaluate the patient preoperatively? Three most important things to be considered. One is whether the gland is functional or non-functional. If it is functional, when we handle it, it can create an upsurge in the blood pressure and patient may go into adrenal storm. So that should not, hypertensive crisis, that should not happen. Of course, it goes without saying, pre-op optimization is mandatory, but when you evaluate the patient in the OPD, you have to do all the hormonal function. The best practice, what I follow, is to involve an endocrinologist in each and every case. Like in splenectomy, involve a hematologist. In adrenal surgeries, involve an endocrinologist. Do the complete hormonal workup and rule out Cushing's, rule out pheochromocytoma, rule out Conn syndrome by all the checklist. Then comes the imaging. Imaging plays a major role, because if it's a clear-cut indication of adrenal gland invading into surrounding structures, invading into the IVC, invading into retroperitoneum with retroperitoneal lymph nodes, it's a clear-cut case of no for laparoscopy. It's an adrenocortical carcinoma which needs open surgery. Yes, one can do adrenal cortical carcinoma surgery laparoscopically, provided it is not invaded in the surrounding structures. Grade 1 and grade 2 ACC, as per the guidelines, can be done by high volume centers. We also have done it, but provided it is not invading into surrounding structures. So read the CT scan yourself, discuss with the radiologist, go and discuss it with the radiologist. Don't just read the report. Third most important thing to be understood is the patient has a previous history of malignancy. If the patient has a previous history of any malignancy and you find a solitary adrenal mass which is non-functional, this could be a metastatic adrenal cortical tumor. So solitary adrenal mets can be done laparoscopically. Again, the prerequisite is non-invasion in the surrounding structures. I'm repeating so that one is very clear and one doesn't falter in picking up the cases. Now, how will you prepare these patients? Once you have done a understanding that this patient is operative or non-operative, then comes the electrolyte imbalances. Correct them, optimize the blood pressure. It's a good practice to start alpha blockers in pheochromocytoma patients, because this helps in controlling the blood pressure prior. We start 2 weeks prior. Good hydration by oral intake and also IV fluids, normal saline, once the patient is admitted in the ward. In pheochromocytoma especially is very helpful, because they have a volume depletion post-op, and a steroid cover is required for bilateral adrenal tumors. Bowel preparation, we stopped giving purgatives. It's just liquid diet 2 days prior to surgery. No other laxatives are required. Now, what's the principles of dissection? There are many techniques of lap adenectomy. There are many approaches. So one will get confused which one to learn. What are, excuse me, suggestion is start with one technique, learn one technique, master it, and then go to other technique. The commonest technique which is used is laparoscopic transabdominal approach. But once we master the other technique, it helps, because there are a variety of different type of tumors which you can perform well with posterior approach. Like if you have bilateral tumors, you can do a good posterior approach. Also, as per patient's body habitus, sometimes you can change the approach as per the technique, but you cannot learn all techniques at one go. So first master one technique. Now, lateral transabdominal approach, this is what I was trying to tell earlier. It is a no-touch technique. We are familiar with peritoneal cavity, so why not go for this technique first? It offers excellent exposure, a bigger working space. Now, these key steps are not my key steps. They are mentioned by way back in 1991 by Michael Gainier, and we follow them till today. adequate mobilization of adjacent organs to obtain clear access to the gland. I consider it as a swimming. In swimming, the way we separate our water from the body, same way in adrenal gland, separate the surrounding structures from the adrenal gland. Don't touch the adrenal gland. We have to careful extracapsular dissection to avoid disruption of the tumor capsule. It's very important to get the intact specimen out. There shouldn't be any spillover or any tumor disruption. Hence, I call it as a no-touch technique. So these two things I have mimicry of what Professor Michael Genier has done, that it's a swimming technique and it's no touch technique. Do not touch the adrenal gland, which you will shortly see in the videos. The position of the patient, it's lateral position. It's not 100% lateral, it's 70-80% lateral. So this is the position you can see here. It's not 100%, it's a little tilt on the other side. This is right adrenal position. These are the port placements. We make primary open technique ports 10 millimeter. Then this is the right hand working port, left hand working port 5 millimeter, and 5 millimeter in the Ziffy sternum for liver retraction. So now imagine and visualize the anatomy of the right adrenal gland. You have to embark the liver, you have to tackle the IVC, and you have to tackle the kidney inferiorly and the retroperitoneum posteriorly. So once you visualize, we can understand better. So that's the liver. This is the 5 millimeter Ziffy sternum port, left hand working port. I prefer to place the right working port last because that should properly target the clip for the clipping. So we use simple tooth grasper. Somebody, if they have Nathanson's retractor, can use that also, but I prefer to use simple tooth grasper in this condition. Now we have to tackle the IVC. What is the rate limiting step in adrenal surgery? It is the tackling of the adrenal vein. So the focus and the target is adrenal vein. So we are clearing the fat of the IVC. So this is called medial dissection. Is this IVC? No, this is the renal vein. You can see it's oblique. So it's the renal vein. So this is the inferior limit of the dissection. We don't have to go below the renal vein because this is the adrenal mass. It is lying superior to the renal vein. So that's the IVC. I hope you all can see well. Now see the movements. There is no handling of the gland. Like in gallbladder surgery, we hold the gallbladder, right? In adrenal surgery, in spleen surgery, we are not supposed to hold them. This is an accessory vein. Rarely you see such veins entering the IVC directly. But I have encountered this couple of times in the last few years. So we are going to retroperitoneum. Medial is IVC, lateral is a tumor. These are the adrenal arteries. As I said, the arteries are in the plane posterior to the adrenal vein or the IVC because they come from the aorta. These are multiple small vessels, feeders. So these are the adrenal arteries. They can be tackled with harmonic. As you can see in this video, harmonic is being used. Whenever you're using suction, do a slow suctioning. Otherwise, pneumo goes away. It's a small space. See, adrenal glands are small retroperitoneal structures. We have to go through so many layers to enter the correct plane. That's the end point of dissection. The medial dissection, that is the retroperitoneum muscles. So once you see the muscles, means you have tackled the entire gland properly on the medial side. And also it ensures that you have tackled the retrocaval portion of the gland, if there is some. Always you don't see retrocaval portion, sometimes you encounter. So now we are clearing the fat on the superior medial surface. There comes the adrenal vein. As I said, it's a short, stout vessel directly entering the inferior vena cava. It's on the upper border of the adrenal mass always. In 80 to 90% of the cases, this is the anatomy. So don't be in a hurry. My favorite statement over here is hurry brings worry. Any hurry in this step can lead to disaster. And one has to be always ready with an open conversion. Fortunately, so far I'm not required to do for an adrenal vein bleeding, but you never know. Things can go wrong at any time if we are in a hurry. So hurry brings worry. Here, dissect the of the fat planes over here. Clear the undersurface of liver slightly so that you can clip properly. Again, same step, clip the vein on the specimen side first. Now, the moment you clip the vein, this being a pheochromocytoma, the blood pressure of the patient falls. The anesthetist sometimes panics. So they have to be geared up that you don't require blood transfusion, you just require some fluids, normal saline fluids. Hence, preoperative hydration helps in these cases. So you can see here, there are hardly any fluctuations on blood pressure. I'm not showing the reading of BP, but because the gland was not handled directly, you will not see blood pressure rising because of handling of the tumor. Now here, inferior dissection. This is the renal vein. We are going to the posterior dissection and then to the inferior dissection. So these are the posterior vessels from the retroperitoneum. This is usually avascular, and if there are vessels, they are small vessels coming from the aorta. The inferior dissection, here you may have a small vessel from the renal artery, hence be careful. And again, as I said in spleen surgeries, these are solid organ surgery which are different structures. They are not like gallbladder or uterus where you can hold them. So in this case, we leave little pad of fat on the specimen to handle it later. Lift the gland up, go posteriorly. The camera person has to turn the light cable to show it properly. It's just gentle movements, to and fro movements, and clear off all the tissues over here. See, if there is bleeding, then this whole vision will not be clear. So hence, avoid bleeding. Do a thorough hemostasis at every step. That's the last part, lateral dissection. As you can again notice here, I'm leaving some fat on the adrenal gland because that helps in handling and placement in the bag. We have extra fat in the body, so it's okay if you remove little. There is no harm. Okay, that's the empty space. That's the entire gland with intact capsule. Clear fossa. There is no bleeding. Clips are intact. We place a bag and then deliver the specimen out in toto. By extending the primary port, 10 mm camera port is shifted to the other right hand working port, and the primary port, which we have done through open technique, we can deliver the specimen out. Post-op course, as I said, it's really good. These patients do not have any major complications post-operatively. Now regarding left adrenal surgery, now you have to again visualize left adrenal gland. We have to tackle the pancreas, we have to tackle the spleen and the kidney inferiorly. So once we visualize first, see the videos, see the pictures, then plan the surgery. So the position is similar, not 100% tilt, but 70 to 80 degree tilt. These are the port placements, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 5 millimeter, and 5 millimeter, and the the trolley on the opposite side. So camera surgeon will stand here, telescope person will stand here, and additional surgeon or assistant will stand here to retract the spleen. So this is the lateral port, left working port, 10 millimeter port. So here, spleen is first structure which comes in the way. So we have to mobilize the spleen, go on the lateral border of the colon and dissect quite far enough to retract the spleen, because this will have a gravitational effect and will open up the splenopancreatic complex to expose the adrenal gland. So how far to go? Far enough so that spleen doesn't come in your way. So now you can retract adequately and clear of the tissue anteriorly. Unless we clear this all thing, we will not be able to see the adrenal gland. So here there is more of separation of the surrounding structures. That's why I synchronize it with swimming. The way we swim, we separate surrounding structures. Yeah, I am separating the pancreas, separating the spleen, and not pushing the adrenal gland. So this is the site where adrenal gland will be. This is the pancreas. So the first structure to identify here is I think we can't ask questions like that. I'm on Zoom, I forget it often. So pancreas is lifted off here. This is the splenopancreatic complex, we call it. Once that is done, we open the retroperitoneal tissue here And the first structure to identify is the renal vein. On the right side, it is inferior vena cava. On the left side, renal vein, because the adrenal vein enters the renal vein. So our target is adrenal vein. So rate limiting step is adrenal vein. Once that is done, the rest of the surgery is absolutely cakewalk. So dissect it properly. It's a long vein. There is no scope of error in this. This is Conn syndrome. So you can't see a big tumor here, but you have to just go alongside the adrenal vein and just clear off the fat from the kidney. That's the kidney down. So you'll be seeing the kidney shortly. Yeah. So this is the flat adrenal gland on the left side, which is getting lifted off from the kidney. That's the kidney here. So once we have tackled the adrenal vein, we go inferiorly, separate from the kidney. And now superiorly from the pancreas. With the left hand is important. It is retracting the pancreas always. So we have only one working hand. One hand is retracting. And again, when we are holding the adrenal gland, we are not actually holding the adrenal gland. We are holding the fat over the adrenal gland. See, that's a cut specimen, cut adrenal vein. So we are just going alongside. That's the way of dissection, alongside. So now hold the extra adrenal fat. That's called extracapsular dissection. What Professor Michael Genier meant was. And that's the empty fossa now. Clipped adrenal vein entering the renal vein. And this is the clear empty fossa here. So we place it in a bag and deliver it out. This is the flat gland. So the tumor will be only 0.5 centimeter or 1 centimeter. Conn syndrome. Now in patients who have bilateral adenectomy, it is said, especially for pheochromocytomas, not for Cushing's, we can try for this steroid partial adenectomy, because in such patients, the outcome is 91% of the patients can go off steroids later on. So I attempted this in one patient with a bilateral pheochromocytoma. Right adrenal, I had done a complete surgery because there was no extra part of the flat gland. But in the left side, I felt there's some flat gland. So this is the adrenal vein. The vein can be tackled. And this is the adrenal medullary tumor, that is pheochromocytoma. And this is the flat part of the gland. So we can leave off the flat part of the gland intact. And this surgery was done, I think, in 2015. So it's been 6 years now. Patient is fine with a partial adenectomy. So she's off steroids and it worked well. I did it for the first time, but it helped. So coming to the complications, what are the complications? Intraoperatively, one can have injury to the surrounding structures, which honestly, if I tell you, in last, our team from KEM has done more than 200 cases, and we have not had an injury of surrounding structures. We have had conversions, we've had bleeding, and now myself also being for 13 years in private practice, we don't encounter what is mentioned in literature. So one should not get fearful that you can injure surrounding structures. You go patiently, go smoothly, go safely, you will not injure. The literature suggests very, very high complications rate. But actually speaking, in practice, we don't see all those complications. Yes, bleeding is a main concern which can happen. And how to control bleeding, I will show you shortly. This is a patient of a large adrenal mass with low hemoglobin, 12 centimeter mass, and a hemoglobin of 8. She had weight loss also. It looked like malignancy, but the imaging did not show any invasion to surrounding structures. So I attempted laparoscopy. So it was difficult to retract. Port placements also vary. So the first step is same. That is opening of the plane over the IVC. Now you can see here, this tumor is so different. There is so much of vascularity here, but there is no invasion. This is called desmoplastic reaction, which happens in a pheochromocytoma. Eventually, this turned out to be a large pheochromocytoma. You can see the leash of vessels. So this is a hypovascular tumor. That's the IVC. I'm trying to palpate to look for any invasion. If there is invasion, I would convert it. because it's an oncological compromise if you don't do an adequate job in an adenocortical carcinoma. So going superiorly to clear off the tissue from the liver, under surface of liver, to get some, mobility, because it's like a large tumor with lot of leash of vessels and desmoplastic reaction. Automatically, when one sees such things, one's movements become further slow. So trying to clear off the plane between the IVC and the gland. And I thought the adrenal vein is far. See, this is what happened. So such things can happen because the field of vision was little restricted. So just don't panic. Put gauze pieces. Wait for some time and then be ready with your clip and clip it. This is what I mentioned that in the last couple of cases I've encountered an accessory vein. Otherwise, earlier we used to hardly see it. Maybe coincidence. So now there is some bleeding, but I'm just trying to mobilize the gland further to aid retraction and go to the site correctly. So going to the inferior space, clearing of the inferior part of the gland. And this helps me to understand that yes, it is removable laparoscopically, or else we should convert it. So now going to the same site again, that's the retroperitoneal muscles. So with the left hand, the suction is doing. You can see the grasper has changed to suction. How it has helped? It has helped to keep the vision clearer. So don't be fixed, don't have a fixed idea. Change the instrument when required. So suction is on with a slow suction, clearing of the blood, also clearing of the fumes of harmonic. I think in this case, it's LigaSure. Yeah. So now we are trying to identify the adrenal vein. So with suction, I'm doing a blunt dissection above the adrenal vein and the undersurface of liver. So this is the adrenal vein. It needs thorough dissection, no shortcut in this step. It should be seen properly, like you can see here. No hurry in this step. And again, clipping on the specimen side first. In this patient, when the bleeding occurred first, I thought that was the main adrenal vein. And I kept on telling the anesthetist, now blood pressure would have dropped. So she said, no, it is not dropped. So then we were sure there is a proper adrenal vein ahead. That was not the main adrenal vein. Because blood pressure, there was no drop in blood pressure. And once we clipped this, there was a drastic drop in blood pressure. Okay, so now the next steps will be same. So I think I must be overshooting the time, I think. So I'll cut off this. I'll just show a little bit. Posterior dissection. Yeah, lateral dissection. Keeping some fat over it. And don't, by mistake, also hold it with a grasper. It will rupture. So we are holding the fat. And now placing such a large one, actually putting the cover on the tumor rather than pushing the tumor inside. So the cover is being mobilized. And these are simple camera covers, no added cost to the patient. So such large tumors can also be tackled laparoscopically, but start with small ones first. My suggestion is always start with the non-functional tumors if you get first, and start talking to the endocrinologist, the hematologist to send patients. Otherwise, they will always feel that we are not doing, we will not send patients. So intact specimen removal is mandatory in adrenal surgeries. So hence incision is required and they have to be delivered out properly intact. So my take-home message is passion is the most important for any surgery. And I believe if you're passionate about your surgeries, you can perform well. A thorough evaluation by endocrinologist, hematologist is mandatory. It's not just useful, it is mandatory. And teamwork is really helpful. It's delicate tissue handling and meticulous hemostasis are very important in these surgeries. And it is advisable to directly go to the target site, as Dr. Rao said in the morning. So the trick of surgery is dissect the surroundings away from the gland. That's the way. Do not hold the gland and pull the gland. So thank you from my team. And if anyone wants any references, they can go through our articles and the publications on lap splenectomy and lap adrenectomy. We have mentioned step-by approach also. And even in the latest guideline by Dr. Om Tantia, which is published now, a textbook on safety in laparoscopic surgery, we have a chapter on lap adrenal. So thank you all very much. I would appreciate if there are any questions, we can discuss them.
Thank you, ma'am, for the worthful talk. Anyone having questions, kindly unmute yourself. Thank you, madam, for your one of the best lecture ever heard or seen. Probably everyone have gone through it thoroughly. That's why there is no questionnaires for you, madam.
Okay, okay.
Thank you so much, madam.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, madam.
Okay.
Thank you, madam. I'm Dr. Sridhar speaking. Very good. The surgery technique, madam. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be happy if there are any doubts in future also. No problems. You all can connect to me. Not an issue. I love these surgeries and be happy to share them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.